Welcome into the Four Verticals Podcast, episode 109. We are finally back live atop a moist, out of context here, don't take it out of context, a moist, hot Jacksonville, Florida on this July 10th, 2025. It's been a little bit since we've been live. We had a show last week on Thursday. This time last week was not live, it was pre-recorded, but put it out there yesterday as I was traveling to our destination, or my destination, if you will, for 4th of July holiday. Hopefully everyone had a good holiday weekend. I know a lot of things have happened. Of course, we didn't have a show on Tuesday. That's because some things popped up. But hey, just because some other shows aren't going to go on for a while, we'll still be on. We're not going anywhere. Yeah, hopefully everyone had a good holiday. I know it's kind of old news now, but I know a lot of things have happened since we've talked. Of course, as someone who is a weather enthusiast, yes, my condolences are out to the folks affected by the horrific floodings in western Texas and last week. That was hard to watch. As someone, again, as a weather enthusiast, that's been thinking about you guys out there. It's been pretty bad, and the death toll continues to rise. So keep a lot of those folks in your thoughts because it's going to be a rough recovery for them. So yeah, I am keeping you guys in my thoughts and prayers. It's been a tough time for them, and yeah, I've not been paying attention to that. It's been pretty tough to watch, especially a lot of images coming out of there. So that's kind of my little thoughts on that. I'm sure a lot of you have been probably wondering what I thought about that, or what I've been thinking about that. But the show, we got spicy predictions are continuing. Auburn record projection for 2025. Got some Q&A. We'll be back, hopefully, to the regular schedule instead of just have one show a week this week. But yeah, we should be back to the regular schedule next week. I'm pretty confident we'll be back to that. So if you are new here, we did get an influx of subscribers over the break. Make sure you like the streams, videos, follow us on Twitter X. Should be in the description. Not description, the channel description on the actual YouTube channel, and make sure to follow us on Spotify on the audio channel. So again, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Again, there's no Patreon page. I don't ask you guys for money. I don't do that type of stuff. All this is for you for free. So we'll hopefully keep it that way. So let's get into this. So spicy predictions. Again, if you need a refresher, this is a segment where we it's sort of like bold predictions, but instead of just calling them full-on bold predictions, I figured why not do something a little bit different with it. Again, using the hot wings analogy. So we have like mild, could happen, warm, maybe, hot, slightly unlikely, spicy, unlikely. That's the categories there. We've been doing this for a couple of weeks now. It's been a lot of fun too. We had a lot of interesting feedback about how we've been doing it. So I think this will be a keeper, I guess, in terms of our consistent show segments. So the first one, Louisville plays Clemson in the ACC title game. This is a maybe. It could happen. Now, what's interesting about this is that those two teams play each other. Clemson and Louisville play each other. I believe it's a Friday game. It's in Louisville, Kentucky. Yeah, it's a Friday game in November, no less. So that's interesting if you're a Clemson fan, a Louisville fan, that both of you will play each other. Now, what is interesting for both of these teams is that while they do both play each other, it's not impossible. Now, the issue is, the reason why it's not necessarily a little bit lower than that, it's sort of slightly higher than a mild, is that Clemson does play Georgia Tech, and their schedule is a little bit harder. And, of course, they also have LSU, but they play SMU. We'll see what Florida State's like. They play North Carolina. So, it's a little more difficult schedule. And you look at Louisville's schedule, their toughest games are, Miami, SMU, and then Clemson. So it's about the same. So, look, there's an avenue where they could definitely make it, but it's not. I'm not too confident in it, but there is certainly a universe where this could happen, right? Especially if, for example, if you're Louisville, what if Miami just implodes on themselves and, maybe it really is a sort of a reboot year? Not like it's not a total rebuild, but just sort of a transitional liminal year, right? Sort of a transitional phase. You could obviously beat them. That may not be a hard of a game as you thought it would be. I also believe both of these teams don't go out to the West Coast, I believe. I think it's those teams going to them, I believe. Well, I guess in the case of Clemson, they don't go to the West Coast. They don't play West Coast team at all. But Louisville does, but they get Cal at home, so that's good. So yeah, I could put this at the mild category, but I think warm is adequate because I think Clemson's schedule is a little more difficult than Louisville's. I think Louisville's is actually sneakily pretty navigable. When they can navigate it, I think there's a chance that they can have a really good record based on, especially their non-con. It's not really that difficult, overly difficult. So both of them reach an ACC title game. It's not impossible. Certainly there could be, of course, if Clemson, it's the Georgia Tech thing, right? They play Georgia Tech while Louisville does not. So that's why that kind of makes it a little more harder to believe, or at least it makes it even less confident that Clemson will be there. But I think Louisville could be there. So it's in the warm category. This one, though, is pretty interesting. So this next one, Washington State makes the playoff. Our first spicy, out of all of the predictions we have done, this is the first one in the spicy category. This is not going to happen. Washington State, because them and Oregon State are essentially in a independent conference, or they basically play a G5 schedule, they're probably not going to be in. Even if Washington State were to go 11-1, 12-0, they're not going to be in. Now, there's there opportunities for them to get some big ones. There is, Washington, Virginia is on there, Ole Miss is on there, so it's not like a total, they're playing a full-on straight G5 schedule, but it basically is, right? You have, for example, you play like San Diego State, North Texas, Colorado State, you play Oregon State, Louisiana Tech, and you play Oregon State again. So there's a 2 games deal for both of you. And you also play some other teams, like an FCS team in there and James Madison. So it basically is a G5 schedule. It's not really like if you were to do the strength of schedule, protocol, both Oregon State and Washington State schedules would not hold up pretty well. Now, look, again, there is certainly a avenue, if you will, that look, you beat Washington, you beat Ole Miss, beat Virginia. Could that be good enough? And things work out in a certain way. They could work out that way, but because the Pac-12 is not really a conference, they haven't been a conference for the past couple of years, or basically just independent. And these teams are more or less G5 teams. Not likely to happen. I just don't foresee it to happen. So, and plus, I don't think the team's really going to be good this year. They have a new coaching staff. A lot of your guys ended up transferring out. So, yeah, I don't really expect this to be a very good team. So, and they could have had it last year, right, with John Mateer. I think they started out 7-1 or something like that, and they sort of flamed out. That could have been last year's team. This year, not so much. It's a spicy prediction. Not going to happen. This next one could have also been in the spicy category, but it's not. It's Indiana has a losing record. That's probably not going to happen. Indiana, much like last year, their non-conference schedule is again, it is what it is. It's 2 G5s and a FCS local regional team. They play Illinois, they play Iowa, and they play Oregon back-to-back games. I think there's actually a bye week in between the Iowa and Oregon game, but still on the schedule, it's back-to-back. Take a start 3-0. They can also go into that Michigan State game 3-3. Now, what's good for Indiana is that they get Michigan State, they get UCLA, they get Maryland. Penn State, you're probably going to lose that game. You have Wisconsin. We'll see what the situation is if Luke Fickell's still there, if he's been fired yet. And then you have Purdue. So at that point, you start season 3-0. You go 3-3. Maybe you get yourself a few more wins to be bowl eligible. That's why this is high. Now, is there an avenue where they could miss a bowl game? Sure, right? Michigan State could be a little bit better than last year if Aiden Childs can play a lot better. UCLA could be, if Nico, they could be a dangerous team. Maryland, we'll see. Wisconsin, Purdue. So they're not like tomato cans. Or obviously they're playing teams that are, in terms of their talent, equal to or in some ways either you're better than or you're worse than them. So it's an equal playing field in terms of the talent late in the year, but we'll see, right? I mean, that Illinois game, by the way, that's at home too. So you have 4 straight home games. Just be careful, right? If you're an Illinois fan, if you're the Tom Fornellis of the world, there is a scenario, right, that Illinois could lose that game. It's a rivalry game too, so it's not. Is it a Thursday game? No, it's not a Friday game or a Thursday. So it's going to be a Saturday game, probably. We'll see what network's going to be on, but that's a game really in the year I'm kind of paying attention to. If Illinois is going to be legit, and a lot of folks think they're going to be this historically great team, and they play who was it? Duke. at some point in the year. So they should start. Oh, that's their toughest game. Then they have their two other games, G5 and FCS. So they should be 3-0 going to that game. So yeah, that could be an early pivotal game there in the Big Ten. How about that? I just didn't realize that until today that that could be an interesting game there for Illinois and Indiana. So yeah, back to the original spicy prediction. Yeah, Indiana missing the bowl game, or a losing record, I guess, missing a bowl game. Hot. As for Michigan State, though, speaking of the Big Ten, kind of sort of a Big Ten themed segment here. Last one here, Michigan State misses a bowl game. Again, this time going back to the Indiana one, where we sort of mentioned it a little bit. Of course, Jonathan Smith, that whole staff there, they didn't change anything. Second year, Aiden Childs is back. Needs to cut off on the turnovers. He was sort of acting like, Jameis Winston circa 2019 with the Buccaneers. A lot of turnovers, a lot of, he was the whoopsie-daisy king last year, in the words of Tom Fornelli. Their schedule, again, it's you get your local team regionally, Western Michigan, get your FCS team again within the region. But you get Boston College, you get to go to USC. That's fun. At Nebraska, it's a very tough schedule. But then again, it's Jonathan Smith, and we've seen with Jonathan Smith and his. I mean, if you're a Michigan State fan, you want some confidence here. We've seen sort of like Matt Rule at Nebraska. They've sort of his history. If you go back to his time at Oregon State, it's sort of been a slow climb, right? You start off really bad, you improve slightly. Your second year, third year was 2020, so we don't exactly know what that season would have looked like if it was a full year. So discard that. 2021 from 19, you see a jump, then you see another big jump, and then you see a bit of a steady out at 8-4. So if you're a Michigan State fan, at least you're starting out a lot better than he did at Oregon State, that was a horrible roster, the one that he was left with. So you could see a uptick, right? Yeah, and I think the key is, right, it's Aiden Childs, right? You just got to cut down the turnovers, right? He has so much potential, right? You saw last year, I think it was in the Maryland game, where it's like, man, Aiden Childs to make a really awesome throw, you can run around and all that. And then the next drive, it's like, man, why did he throw that football? He threw it right to him. So cut down the turnovers and have, put handcuffs in Aiden Childs, but just monitor him, right? Don't let him go too crazy. They could be a dangerous team this year. Now, look, they're still way under-resourced, way under talent. But as long as you have Aiden Childs here and he stays healthy and he cuts off the turnovers, you could see Michigan State improve slightly, even if it's just above a win, right? They haven't been to a bowl game, I believe, in a couple years. So them getting to a bowl game this year would be a big deal and would be a springboard, right? Sort of a springboard takeoff type moment for them going into next year. So how about that? As we merrily move along, going to be probably more of a shorter show today because for a number of things. One of them being in Florida. Afternoon thunderstorms yesterday. Boy, if we did a show yesterday, I don't know how we have done it. It was like constant lightning and thunder in the background. It was, I guess we're deep enough in the show now. We can, story time of Josh. Just big thunderstorms. Of course, you get storms here all the time, but the storms yesterday, man, they were like slow moving, sort of like lumbering, like all over Jacksonville, the county we're in, Duval County. Just a massive blob, just a big, massive thunderstorm. And the dew points here, by the way, were near the 80s, so it's a very juicy, unstable atmosphere. But because of the steering currents, not to get too in the meteorological weeds here, they were not existent yesterday, meaning the storms are not going to move very far. But that also means, since they stay in one place, that means there's a lot of flooding. Again, you get the constant lightning and stuff. But also the somewhat good thing is that they don't, at least in my area of town, it didn't last as long as other areas. Because by the time it sort of creeped over here, it sort of began to rain itself out, and at that point it just became heavy rain. But unlike West Texas, we didn't get a whole lot of flooding. Some flooding, like, for example, St. Augustine, which is not far from where I live, just south of Jacksonville. It floods every single afternoon. I've had experience with that, and it flooded yesterday. Again, thankfully it wasn't like catastrophic flooding, but yeah, we did a show yesterday. It would have been pretty hard to do. So thankfully, we're doing the show early enough where we're not dealing with that. Now, of course, today of all days, it's not going to. The chances are a little bit lower for storms, but we'll see. But so again, if you're new here, again, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, Twitter, the podcast feed on Spotify. Make sure to get out. Again, I know we got a new a lot more folks who have subscribed to the channel, or at least aware of it now. Make sure you do that because it helps us out. Again, it keeps this show free. And you would never, ever put this thing behind a paywall. Would never happen. I'm not a big believer in that. I understand why some people do it. But personally, I'm not a part of that. We, by the way, at least, well, we, referring to me, I've never talked to a sponsor, never talked to an advertiser. This is a completely independent show. If there were ever, by the way, like an advertiser we ever considered using, would be one that I would be comfortable with, one that I think you would also be comfortable with too. So just to reassure you, we are an independent show. That's always the intent, to keep us independent. And look, if a good sponsor comes around and they're trustworthy, then we'll use them. But for the most part, no other sponsors. More unlikely. But again, if the opportunity comes around, we will. But we do try to keep this show independent. I know we will never put this behind a paywall ever. So a little, I guess, side mission there, I guess, over with. I'm going to get some water. We'll be right back, and then we'll move along to the team record projection. The team we're doing today is Auburn. So water has been drunk and, drunk. And we shall continue. So 2025 team record projections. We started this, if you're new here, back all the way and the first week of May. And now it's middle of June. The dog days of summer. So we've been doing this for a while, done a ton of teams. We have a whole Microsoft Word document of a whole host of teams. We still have more to do. We still haven't done like Kansas State, Louisville. There's still a lot of teams we haven't done yet, and there's a lot of teams I want to cover. But of course, we won't do all of them. Like, we're not going to do all of like the G5 one. I will do some of them, like some of the better ones. But in terms of the major teams, we're scooting off through. I think we're doing a pretty good job of trying to get to everyone. We're not going to get to everyone though, but we'll eventually get to most of the teams. But this next one here is one that I had been holding off for a little bit, is Auburn. It's a team that I am familiar with as someone who grew up in the state of Alabama, as someone who has a lot of, let's just say, somewhat connections to people who have interest in Auburn. I've been hiding this or at least pushing it back a little bit. We covered this a lot earlier, but there's a reason why I'll get to in just a second. So, Auburn under Hugh Freeze. What do you think of Auburn under Hugh Freeze? Well, they went 6-7 the first year. If you need a recap here, I know you can just very easily go to Wikipedia and look this up, but to save you some time in doing that, I'll just go ahead and do it for you. First season, he gets there, 6-7. As Josh Pate says all the time, it's all about entry point when coaches come in and take these jobs. Hugh Freeze, when he entered in, it was awful. I mean, it was the end of the Brian Harsin era. The roster was basically like Auburn's roster when Harsin got fired. And when Hugh Freeze came in, may as well just been like a Sunbelt roster. Like, it may as well not been as different as like no offense here, but to like Coastal Carolina or App State or Louisiana Monroe. It wasn't very good. Like, it was the worst talent roster in the SEC besides like Mississippi State and Vanderbilt, maybe Arkansas. Like, it was probably even worse than those. It was awful. Receivers are bad. Quarterback room was, just not very good. The only bright spot was probably tailback, and that was probably it. Jarquez Hunter was pretty good. Good for them. Again, as I have stated before, they have not had a winning season this decade. Besides 2020, which was not a full year, they have had losing season after losing season after losing season. The worst stretch in Auburn football I have had at least in my lifetime. I know you could probably go back to like the 1950s or whatever, and have a worse stretch. I don't think it's been this bad. And I think it does make you think, and at least, not make you think, but kind of confirms just how bad the Harsin era was and how much of a ripple effect it had on the program. And so what happened last year happened. It was another year paying for it. Was what it was. A lot of losing a lot of one-score games and a lot of turnovers and things like that. You also had, the off-the-field issues, a few frees, the health stuff. We'll circle back to that. They, though, off the field, have a little more success on the field. Multiple top 10 recruiting classes. They've done well in the portal, though that's that's sort of, I don't know how am I supposed to phrase that. I guess it's more, the portal stuff's more dependent on the talent, which has not necessarily been the same type of talent that has been in the portal the past couple of years. But anyway, good recruiting classes, very good recruiting classes, actually. Decent enough portal stuff, though, again, that's, not necessarily the same level of talent as it was, like, 4 years ago or whatever, or the past 3 years. Offense has been the issue for them, just not been good enough. Again, you have your new quarterback coming in, Jackson Arnold, who, he's a former 5-star guy, was at Oklahoma last year, had spurts of success, a lot of ups and downs last year. What's really interesting about Jackson Arnold? Did I say Payton Thorne? Did I get those two confused? If I did, apologies. But yeah, it's Jackson Arnold, not Payton Thorne. He's long since departed. Him and some other players like Hank Brown, Walter White, not the guy from Breaking Bad. It's Walker White, but all those guys are gone. And to be honest with you, actually, if you listen to a lot of folks in recruiting, actually, like Hank Brown and Walker White, not really the same level as like Jackson Arnold in terms of recruiting wise, not necessarily in terms of his entire body of work as a player, but in terms of him as a recruit, or those guys as recruits, yeah, Jackson Arnold's a lot better. So he's definitely the most talented quarterback in terms of potential, raw potential, that Auburn has had since Bonex left the program. Which is not really, I think for some people it's not saying much, but it kind of is. It makes you probably realize more how much damage was actually done during the Harsin era. But hold on, I just got a message here. Okay, we should be. Of course, it's one of those spam people who message me, but whatever. That happens now and again. But what was I saying? Yeah, so offense. So Auburn. So they brought in Jackson Arnold, former 5-star guy. Has some familiarity with SEC being in Oklahoma, which his consistency does raise concerns. You bring in Ashton Daniels, the kid from Stanford, who mainly just runs around, not really anything that special. You also bring in Deuce Knight, the true freshman, 5-star guy. We're not expecting him to start. He's probably going to be sitting out. I mean, if he stays, he's probably not going to play, more than likely. Running back wise, it's going to be interesting to see here who will be taking up the reins for Jarquez Hunter, who's now off to the NFL. Jeremiah Cobb is still there. Demario Austin's still there. They have the kid from UConn who transferred in, Robinson. You also have a 3-star kid who they brought in recently. The thinking is it's probably going to be either some combination of Demario Austin, Jeremiah Cobb, maybe the Robinson kid from UConn plays. Receiver-wise, Auburn is stacked at receiver. That's the room that they really needed to update. That and the quarterback room were the ones that they really needed help. It was, like you're gasping for water, right? I think Auburn and Hugh Freeze, give him credit where credit is due. He did that. Bringing in Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson, Bryce Kane, Malcolm Simmons, all these guys who are going to be standouts. As long as they stay, and that's a whole other conversation. As long as Hugh Freeze is still the coach there, and they can still pay them up to keep him. This should be the best wide receiver room, or at least one of the best in the SEC and potentially in the country, right? Again, Cam Coleman, coming out of last year's, or back when he was in his recruiting class, he was in the same class as Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith. He was up there with those guys. That was like the top 3, coveted wide receiver recruits in that recruiting class he was in. So there's a reason why he's really good. And it sucks that he was on not necessarily on a good team last year. He didn't have 1,000 yards. Very underwhelming, I guess, if you want to put it there. In the portal, though, they did get a pretty good addition in Eric Singleton, the transfer from Georgia Tech. So, he was pretty good. But outside of that, their portal class wasn't really that great necessarily in terms of the talent relative to the past years. But elsewhere, the offensive line, we'll see. They return most of their stars. It looks like for Auburn, but that's not really saying much. We'll see. Defensively, though, should hopefully take a step forward. You have a lot of good talent there as well. We have the big one is Keldrick Fox, a good player. You did bring in some guys in the transfer portal. You still have some guys who are still hanging around from past recruiting classes. So we'll see how that looks. I think they should still be pretty good there at on defense. If DJ Durkin coming back, their whole entire staff is mostly the same. Special teams still the same with Alex McPherson. I know they had some issues last year, but that's mainly because of injuries. So, is what it is. Not really his fault. But when looking at Auburn's schedule here, it's a tough schedule. Look, there's no doubt about it. It's pretty tough. Their first game is against Baylor. It's on the road on Fox, no less. And you're going against a Baylor team that, I'll be honest with you, and I think a lot of folks agree with me, just had a better quarterback, right? Robinson, the quarterback, just a lot better than Jackson Arnold, at least from what we've seen in terms of production. So that's on the road too. again, like I've been saying, that's going to be a game that Auburn's, look, they're favored in right now. Don't be surprised that line moves to Baylor. It's at home for Baylor. It's a Friday night game. It's a standalone game. So I'd imagine a lot of folks are going to be looking forward to that game. That's a big game, too, for obviously Hugh Freeze and Auburn, and also Baylor, too, right? Because that's a resume building win there for Dave Aranda. After that, you get your two G5 teams. Then you get, and it gets real in a hurry here. You get Oklahoma on the road, Texas A&M on the road. You have bye week, Georgia comes to town, and you get Missouri. Again, this is the same schedule SEC-wise as last year, just the venues change. It's you played OU at home last year, you go on the road. Texas A&M came to your place. You go to College Station, a place that you have had struggles at recently. Wasn't the case last decade. So the Auburn schedule is what it is, and after looking at it, sort of thinking about how I feel about it, again, the non-conference is different, but the conference is, and thankfully though for Auburn, while it is top heavy, you do get some teams. You do play teams that have a lot of questions, like Vanderbilt. There's some questions, not at quarterback though. Kentucky, a ton of questions. Arkansas, and an accoutrement of questions. Missouri. A relatively simple schedule, especially at home. They get, again, 6 straight home games, but it gets real in a hurry, though, late in the year. So we'll see. So back to sort of circle back to as to why I pushed this back. During my time away during 4th of July, visited from some folks who have connections to Auburn. And one buddy in particular, talked to him over the break while I was away. He's an Auburn grad. Shall not be named. Just to keep it simple here, that's not really relevant who it is or whatever. But anyway, so a buddy of mine, we were talking, I was asking him casually, hey, what would be success for Auburn this year? And the way he pointed out to me is, look, aim for is a success. If you're to determine success, paraphrasing here, but that was told to me is that what we consider success would be aiming for Auburn this year. That would be really what is success. I somewhat agree with him on that. At least in the best case scenario, which would be 8-4. The worst case scenario, and this is the doomsday scenario. Now, by the way, their over under FanDuel number is 7.5. So I think the same as last year, actually, maybe a little bit higher. But the worst case scenario though is 4-8, and that would be a total catastrophe. That would be just a total disaster. That would be Titanic hitting the iceberg and the ship sinking and whatnot. I know it's kind of a weird analogy, but that's what it'd be like, right? It'll just be pretty stunning to have to happen, but unfortunately, based on that schedule, how hard it is, especially within the conference, not to mention adding on Baylor, that's not impossible to see, right? Like that's not that wouldn't be too surprising, unfortunately. And again, given the instability at quarterback, the fact that you didn't really get a guy that would elevate your team, and look, there could be a avenue here where Jackson Arnold performs well, sort of the reverse of the Bo Nix stuff, where if you remember, Bo Nix leaves, goes to Oregon, performs a lot better. It could be the reverse for Auburn here, that they get the Bo Nix that was at, I guess, sort of the reverse, right? So instead of Bo Nix leaving Auburn, it's a broken former 5-star quarterback comes to them, and they actually get elevated because of it. And look, Jackson Arnold is inheriting a very good receiving class, as long as they stay healthy. But we'll see about the offensive line, running back room. Again, we still don't know. Defense, we'll see. There's talent there, but we'll see. There's a lot of names that you probably remember from recruiting, like, again, Keldrick Falk, DeMarcus Riddick, guys that you remember, but they have not contributed yet. The hope is they contribute. So again, from my buddy, he told me, the success for Auburn this year would be 8-4, and I agree, that's the best case scenario. But the worst case scenario is also really bad, and it's the inverse. Again, it's 4-8. My reasonable thought here, if you're to take everything considered here, the schedule, the roster, how much I think of the talent there, well, I believe they will make a bowl game. I don't think it's going to be like a 10-2, 9-3. I just don't think that's on the table here. Could it happen? Sure. It's not likely. I think the reasonable here, and this may hurt if you're an Auburn fan, is 7-5, and that doesn't sound good. After really thinking about it and talking to a lot of other folks who agree, that doesn't sound good if you're an Auburn fan, right? You're, as an Auburn fan, 7-5 used to be just like the baseline, and now that's like the most reasonable scenario for your team. Look, we'll move on from this, and I'll sort of end up with this here. Look, whatever happens, happens. Right? If Hugh Freeze doesn't make it, he doesn't make it. They bring someone else in. If they somehow are able to keep the talent around, none of those guys will leave, then whoever the next coach will be, they should hopefully have a good enough talent roster to work with in their first year. But if you're an Auburn fan, though, if you want to be, if you want to keep things simple, it's in your best interest to probably have Hugh Freeze stay there, because I think even if things go away, I think they will be 7-5. At least it shows you that things are improving. The roster is getting better. Yeah, it doesn't sound good, and yes, the schedule will change next year, and you have to, you lose those home games of Bama and Georgia this year, and your hope is you can win one of them. But it's just with the talent there, and with just the uncertainty and just the way everything's looking at for Auburn right now, and the I guess the toxicity and the hawkishness, if you will, of the administration and somewhat from the majority of the fan base to a certain extent, which is warranted, by the way. Look, if you give Hugh Freeze, you put him in there, you say, hey, look, grant you your entry point is with the Harsin era. That's obviously pretty trash. You should give him 3 years to get it fixed, and it's year 3 now, and you're expecting big things. But again, I just don't know. It's the best way I can sort of describe this year. If I use an analogy for Hugh Freeze at Auburn, the way I can best describe it, and look, this is not me getting political or anything. This is just for meme purposes. It's sort of like the George Bush and mission accomplished after the Iraq War. That's what this would feel like if Auburn were to go the way I think they will go, which would be 7-5. It's mission accomplished. Right, we got the talent in, but we can say, hey, we accomplished that, but we really didn't accomplish anything meaningful. That's what it would feel like if Auburn were to go 7-5 or worse, right? Worst case scenario being 4-8. That's what it would feel like, right? It would just feel like we accomplished some stuff, we didn't accomplish everything, right? It would be, again, mission accomplished, right? So I don't know. I don't feel good about it in terms of picking 7-5, but then again, I could pick 9-3 and still not feel good about it. Again, a lot of mystery for Auburn right now. I think it all boils down to quarterback. You have the receiving room, running back room, I think should be good enough. The O-line, we'll see. Defense, there should be hopefully better. But again, I just, because that schedule, and again, that Baylor game still, I still don't think they're going to win that game. I know that's a long ways from now, but if I had to pick it right now, I don't think Auburn wins that game. I think Baylor does, and I think that would be jarring if you lose that game. I know that sounds, think about that. If you're to tell yourself that 5 or 7 years ago, hey, Auburn's going to go play Baylor in 2025, and there's a good chance to lose that game, you would be laughing to yourself, right? But that's the current state of Auburn football, and it's not good right now. And we'll see. Look, again, I'm giving Hugh Freeze benefit of the doubt. Hopefully they can squeeze enough of Jackson Arnold, at least potential-wise, enough they can. And look, if they go 9-3 of this roster and they, are just barely in the fringes of the playoff, that's success. That's good. But if it's anything worse than that, worse than 8-4, that's going to be rough. And a lot of tough conversations are going to be had there because, again, you've been given enough time to build this thing out, which is why I'm not necessarily totally against you guys being hawkish about it. I'm not totally against the administration being frustrated about it. I agree. It should be frustrating because it's not the Auburn standard. And unfortunately, if you really think about it, this isn't too far away from where Tennessee was before they got Josh Heupel. And who knows, maybe it is going to take a Josh Heupel type hire to get this thing going, right? Just get an extra gear into it. So I don't know, but yeah, for best case for Auburn, 8-4, worst case 4-8, reasonable 7-5. So you might digress in the comment section below if you want to. Let's see, ref, 30 minutes here. So yeah, got a decent clip here. We're being more of a shorter show today, but trust me, next week we'll hopefully have more to say, I think. But yeah, we still have some content left. But again, if you're new here, again, subscribe, like the stream. Follow us on Twitter, podcast feed. Q&A time here. We're on the show of Q&A. First one, thoughts on the Superman review. So I have not seen Superman yet. I'll see it eventually, hopefully, if we're able to. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes, but we'll get through it. But in terms of what I've seen from the Superman reviews, James Gunn Superman, look, the journey with this movie, like a lot of you, it's been that chart, right? The we're so back, it's so over chart here. It's been, we're back, it's over, we're back, it's over, we're back, it's so over, we're so back. That's this movie, and from what I have seen, it went from we're over after all the negativity going around with the toxicity about the rumors and the leaks and blah blah, and a lot of it seems like be taken out of context. It seems like based on the reviews, again, I haven't seen the movie yet. It seems like from Superman went from it's over. It's it's gonna be a total disaster. We're back. It seems like that James Gunn really did cook on this movie. It seems like everyone's enjoying it. Even Josh over at Den of Nerds, who was, look, I don't necessarily disagree with him. Look, I was skeptical just like him. I was very nervous about this movie. It seems like we dodged a bullet, and it seems like it's really good. It's enjoyable. It seems like it's accurate. It's a very much like complete 180 from Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, which I wasn't ever a fan of it personally, nor was I a fan of like Bryan Singer's Superman Returns, which was the ultimate. It's the epitome of boring. But it seems like this movie is a complete reverse to that, which I don't know what that necessarily means. Necessarily, well, I mean, I can tell at least generally, but I don't know without seeing the movie what that really means. But I am aware of a lot of things that do happen in this film because Twitter exists, and someone who can't it's hard not to look at the leaks and stuff. And so I'm aware of some stuff that happens. Some of it's pretty cool. Some of it does much so line up with the Reddit leaks, and it basically confirms a lot of them. But I'm happy. I'm happy that's getting good reviews. I'm happy it's a very positive start. I'm happy that James Gunn and all of them. It looks like they made probably the best version of this movie they possibly could, and been interested to watch it. And again, look, I could go into this movie, I could hate it, I can go into it and liking it like most of you. So, and no, I'm not getting into the political stuff that came up this week. Like that's not this show. You can watch CNN and Fox News for that. That's not necessarily the show, but yeah, I did look into that a little bit, is what it is. But yeah, nice to have a actual good comic book movie that hopefully will make a lot more money than Thunderbolts. And of course, we get Fantastic Four in a few weeks. Very excited about that too. And like I said back months ago, when the question was going around of who's any better, is it Superman versus Fantastic Four? Both can be successful. That's all I got to say about it. Both can be successful, and thankfully, it's trending that way, and that's good. Next question: thoughts on Buccaneers Tristan Wirfs' injury? So yeah, this happened yesterday, and this is tough, man. This is tough. So if you don't remember, you haven't heard. Tristan Wirfs is gonna have he got injured his knee. He will need surgery, and he will be out for, at the very minimum, the first 2 to 3 weeks of the season. Which, unfortunately, if we look at the Bucs schedule, and yes, we'll eventually do a full-on breakdown for them, as we have done with the college teams, as we go to the Wikipedia page here, doing some on-the-fly research. Yes, the first 3 weeks or so, it's at Falcons, at Texans, and Jets. So yeah, it's a good thing we haven't done their preview yet, because that would be inaccurate. So that does hurt a little bit. I mean, you played the Falcons week 1. That's gonna be a tough game. In fact, if I had to look, I don't think you're favoring that game. I don't think you are. Ditto with Texans. You could easily start 0-2, which would be pretty jarring. Thankfully after that you get the Jets, so it's a little bit easier, and then the Eagles come to town, and that's it's gonna be tough. Is that true? Is that like the 3rd straight year they've came to Tampa? How about that? That's interesting. It's been a long time since Tampa's been to Philly. It's been a long time, but hey, at least it's early in the year, I guess. That it's once again they're back there. But then of course you go to Seattle come week 5, and hopefully he'll be back by then, because I think that might be more of a tough game. Those 2 games in the first week, but still that's a tough schedule though. Before the bye week, I mean, you get like the Saints, the 49ers, the Lions, and that's a pretty tough schedule. Much like last year, it's a top heavy. But after the bye week, it does level off a little bit. But yeah, the Wirfs injury, it's concerning. The offensive line seemed to have been improving over the years, and this is a bit of a setback. But look, as long as you have Baker Mayfield, and look, as much as I love Tom and his time in Tampa, the one thing that still just beats me over the head is that he's not a mobile quarterback. Granted, he did take a lot of sacks, and he didn't get hurt unlike Aaron did in New York. But with Baker, and the biggest difference between him and Tom is, look, I mean, obviously Tom's not a pocket passer. He's Tom, right? He's Tom Brady. But Baker, the biggest difference between him and Tom is, like, Baker can move around. He's a dual threat guy, can scoop, and that's good, right? Having an offensive line, we're going to have to bring in a new starter. At least that helps a little bit, having a guy who can move around a little bit. Obviously way more than your previous guy, so it hurts as a Bucs fan, but I think it makes me feel more confident that we have a guy who can move around and he can sort of mask some of those issues. So while it does suck, it's not like an in total like wave the flag season over type thing. No, I mean, it does seem like he'll be back eventually, and hopefully by then it won't be a total disaster on the field. I don't think it will, though, but we'll see. But yeah, it does hurt, but at least the glass half full, glass half empty is saying, look, you have a guy who can run around being Baker. It's not like it's going to be a total statue back there. So that's good. At least there's it's not like a total disaster. But in terms of the run game, though, it does hurt a little bit. But still feel confident, though, of the running back committee. We have, Sean Tucker, Charlotte White, and, of course, Bucky Irving. So, yeah, I'm concerned, but not too concerned. It's sort of, again, that glass half full, glass half empty type thing. So we'll see. But, yeah, I did see that yesterday, and that was not what I expected to hear. But, it is what it is. Last question here, not necessarily regarding our show, but regarding someone's show. Thoughts on Josh Pate's recent news of this show going on hiatus? This is a bombshell. I was not expecting this. So Josh Pate, someone who's a bit of a hero of mine, was one of the reasons why I got into this into the YouTube sphere and the podcast sphere was because of his show. Him and among other shows I watched, both football wise and like the Marvel pop culture stuff, right? This was shocking. So Josh earlier announced on all of his socials, he's like, yeah, look, we're taking some time off from the show, so no shows for the next few weeks. That was hard to that was a hard announcement to see on the notifications there. Look, I don't know Josh personally, so we as the fans don't know what's happening. He's been hinting at this a little bit for the past few weeks that the schedule's going to get really weird. If you've noticed, his shows have been not live and pre-recorded. So there's something going on there. I don't know what. I don't think it's anything major. Like the show, I don't think this show's going away. I have minimum thoughts and speculation as to what it could be. It's not my, it's not my space to air out dirty laundry or whatever or speculate. I will say though, it is interesting, or it is ironic how Josh, Mr. Pate has been the, advocate for no off season, but then he's taken off in the off season. So how about that? Look, I know it's not intentional. I'm sure having watched Josh for a long time and not knowing him personally, I know for sure this hurts him not doing the show. I know it is bothering him. They say he can't do a show. I'm sure there's some external factor that's not making him do it, and it's not his choosing. What I'm trying to say, I'm sure this is a external issue that is preventing him from doing this. I'm sure he'll be back in a few weeks, but it does hurt. But hey, you have us. We're not going anywhere. It's not like this show's not going anywhere anytime soon. We're not taking any long breaks. Yes, we didn't have a show live last week. We were live on Tuesday. We're live 10. That's all that matters. At least on the YouTube side of things. On the podcast side, it's not a big deal. But yeah, saw that news regarding his show, his hiatus. Hey, if you're anyone who's a Josh Pate viewer, come to us. We'll take care of you until he comes back. And that's the show. Again, like I said, a bit of a shorter show. A couple things to note here, which is not regarding us going away or anything. Got some spit there on the microphone. It's mostly regarding the college ball video game. So the game is out today for everyone. So if you didn't do the pre-order stuff, if you ordered it, if you went to Best Buy or whatever today, you bought it from the Microsoft Store, you have the game now. So you can fully do whatever you want, have fun with it. I, unfortunately, ordered mine from Amazon. I pre-ordered it back months ago, back in April and May when the pre-orders went up. But silly me didn't think you have access to the Microsoft Store. You just buy it from there on day one. So, because I ordered it from Amazon, the game will not be available to me until Monday. Yeah, so I will not be joining you guys, and it sucks, but I'm in a bit of a predicament here. So I could, cancel the order and get my money back and then spend that money on buying the game virtually and just having it with us this weekend, or with me this weekend. So I'll let you guys know what I'm doing, what I'll end up doing. But yeah, while most rest of you guys are enjoying your game and buying it, either going to the store physically or getting it online, us, I'm sure some of you probably who ordered it from Amazon, will have to wait until Monday. So that's great. Hopefully something changes and it arrives early, but it looks like Monday's going to be the day. I literally called Amazon their Amazon customer service yesterday, and they said, oh, the game will be here Monday. Sorry, we can't do anything about it. But the game arrived. This doesn't happen last year. So, look, apologies about that. I wanted to get, at least something out, at least a review out. But unfortunately, I cannot. So I'll have to wait until next week for that, which is probably actually a good thing, too. I guess it is a blessing in disguise. Apparently, there is some issues with the game. The first patch hasn't came in yet, so hopefully between now and then there is a first patch, and hopefully that will fix some of the issues some of you guys are running into. But from what I have seen from guys like Tubby Light and like Bordeaux and all of them. The game was beautiful. There's no doubt. It's a beautiful game, and I'm itching to get my hands on it. I'm tempted, though, to cancel my Amazon order and just go and buy the game and use that money and buy it from the Xbox store. But, yeah, I'll let you guys know what my plan is. But, yeah, I don't have the game yet. At the moment, I'm just going to have to wait until Monday, which sucks because I really wanted to play it this weekend. But, hey, you know, it is what it is. And, look, you know, that's life for you. So, until Tuesday, hopefully by now I'll have the game in my possession. And I'll probably have a review ready probably by this time next week, hopefully. So until Tuesday, again, we're back live on Tuesday. The normal show, you know, schedule's back. And again, we're not going anywhere. Unlike some shows like Josh Pates, we're not going anywhere. We're not taking a break. We're not taking an extended break. At least like not for a few weeks. That's pretty long for JP, by the way. That's not usual. So yeah. So until Tuesday, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy playing College Bowl 26. I will be waiting patiently, either you know, getting the Amazon game or just crashing out and getting the Microsoft Store version. So we'll see. But I will be joining you guys soon. I guess I forgot to mention this. I do have actually a couple of Team Builder teams out that I will publish. Well, they're published, but I will officially announce that they're mine. I wonder if some of you have already figured it out. But anyway, until Tuesday, enjoy your weekend. Enjoy playing College Bowl 26. Again, I'll eventually join you guys at some point in the near future. Enjoy, again, the rest of your weekend. Enjoy playing the game. And I'll see you on the next stream.